Oh, what is good, fanbase? It's your boy Blaze Hollow coming at you again with another What If, and this time I'll be bringing you What If Deku ate the Hormone through Part 3, and I'm going to be adding the fact that this is an hour-long special, so be excited for that, but we do also have some special announcements. First off, I want to give a shout out to my editor Ed, who is going to be putting the link down below for all the hard work he's going to be putting into this part. I'll make sure to show him some love by going to subscribe to his channel and leave a nice comment down below, because if it wasn't for him, this part would not be the way that it is currently going to be. Second, I also want to give a shout out to my boy Dubstep for all the amazing thumbnails that he makes for me, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have thumbnails for videos. So make sure to show him some love. There will be a link to his channel down below. Third, I also want to bring up about Yonko Mochi. A lot of people have been asking me if it's going to continue, but I'm sorry, it is not my own personal work. It is actually a series of my friend Fred, and I would not dare try to take over his own series. So if you guys want to see me do a Mochi Deku in the future, I can do that, but unless Fred decides to come back and finish the series himself, I'm sorry, but that series is going to be stopped. Last thing before we get into the intro, I want to let you know that there's not going to be a lot of progression in this part. It's kind of like filler, mainly because I wanted to set up more character development and stuff for the future. Also, I had to stay within the parameters of what I agreed with Ed for this bet that I lost. But with all that finally said, let's start that intro and get into it.
I honestly don't think you can become a hero.
Finally, the school bell rang as everybody was going home. Mina, Shinso, and Izuku were putting their stuff away as they grabbed their bags and decided to group up in front of the classroom, deciding where they were going to go. Shinso looked in between both of the girls, not wanting to speak to Mina first out of fear of losing all of his stamina. So, Izuku, what is your plans for after school? Izuku thought about it for a little bit, realizing that she wanted to hit up one of the bookstores to get a bunch of medical books for research for her quirk. Mina jumped into the conversation by latching onto Izuku's back while hugging her. Mind if I join you? There's this new romance novel that I've been wanting to get my hands on. I want to see if they have it at the bookstore that you're going to. Shinso actually liked the idea of going to the bookstore as he had this new story that he wanted to get into. I might tag along as well if you don't mind. There's this new story that one of my parents suggested to me known as The Maze Runner by James Dashner, so I want to see if the bookstore have it in stock. Izuku smiled, actually appreciating that her friends wanted to accompany her. I would love that. Plus, the bookstore is connected to a cafe, so we can go there right after we get all of our books for snacks and drinks. Ina's eyes started to sparkle, wondering if the place actually had a really good sweet. I wonder if the place has pastries. I really want something sweet to get me nice and energized. And so then shivered at the thought of Mina being high on sugar. I think you have enough energy. Maybe it's time that you cut back on some of the sugar that you eat. Ina made a pouting face at Shinso because of his comment. Well, I think I'm perfectly stable. I don't think I have that much energy to begin with, and besides, I don't eat sweets that often. That's why I get excited when I get to. Izuku giggles a little bit, watching the both of them bicker about Mina's energy level. As much as I would love to watch the both of you go back and forth as you bicker, we should hurry up and head to the bookstore before it closes. Both of them nod their heads as they make their way out of school. Halfway across town, they actually find themselves at a very average looking bookstore as the three of them split up for a little bit, trying to find the books that they're looking for, only for Izuku to finally make her way to the medical section as she bumps into someone she didn't expect, who is Recovery Girl, who seems to be looking into some new medical books that were recently placed on the shelf. Izuku calmly makes her way over to Recovery Girl. Good afternoon, Recovery Girl. I didn't expect to run into you here. Recovery Girl turns around as she's wondering who is talking to her, only for her to look up and see Izuku, which puts a smile on her face. Well, hello, dearie. I didn't think that I would run into you so soon. It looks like you're taking my advice and looking into proper medical books so you can help out your quirk. Izuku just nodded her head sheepishly. Yeah, but I just realized I don't know what books to get, and I forgot the list that you gave me back at home, so I'm lucky that I ran into you. Recovery Girl was more than happy to help out as she started to look up and down the medical section, and she came back with a nice pile of books for Izuku. Here you go, dearie. I got you more than just hormone analysis books. Some of them were actual books that you would need to go to med school, but I also put some surgery books in there just in case, and the top one is one of my favorites that explains about hormones Hormones, which is called Meet Your Hormones. Both authors are actually very well good acquaintances of mine, so I trust their work and their book above all others. Quick little editor's note, I'm going to be sending a photo of this to my buddy Ed so he can put it on the screen for all of you to know what the book looks like. Also, a quick little writer's note from me to you guys. Any of you are going to ask if I read this book, the answer to that is no. I did a quick Google search to find the best medical book that I can on hormones. Didn't want to keep on looking up each and every name for a medical book, so I picked one that was going to be quick and easy to pronounce. So please do not get angry with me if I did not explain each and every book on the medical topic, because I just didn't want to go into endless research on medicine. Zuku was very appreciative of all the help that Recovery Girl was giving, but then she also had to check to see if she had enough money, knowing that medical books can be very expensive. Thank you very much. I'm just going to hope that I have enough to pay for all of this. Recovery Girl thought about that for a second and then realized that she could help somebody else while also getting some new heroes into the medical field. I would be more than willing to help pay for the books, but I would need you to hear out a request of mine. Zuku was curious on why Recovery Girl wanted to help her out so much and what the strange request could be. I'm going to hear you out, Recovery Girl, but do know that there's still not much I can do with my quirk. Recovery Girl nodded, knowing that this could possibly be risky. I have a friend that has an injury that usually is impossible to recover from, but I think with your help after getting a better handle on your abilities and studying proper surgery and hormone control, you might be able to fix him. Consider this my favor for the future. Izuku was wondering who this person could be, which made her more determined to get better at controlling her quirk so she could help out this person. It's a deal. I promise I'll become such a great user of my quirk that I'll probably become an even better doctor than you, Recovery Girl. Recovery Girl smiled, thinking about all the lives that Izuku is going to save in the future. Well, I don't doubt that. Someone eventually has to take my place at UA when I finally retire. But both of them made it up to the cash register as they continued to have a little bit of small talk about medicine theory, as they recently connected up with Mina and Shinso in the register line. Seeing that the both of them were debating romance or adventure novels, seeing that the both of them just can't seem to agree, Zuku got in between the both of them. Does it really matter which one is better? You both like what you like, so that's all that should matter. So I hope that the both of you were able to find the books that you were looking for. Mina smiled as she held up her new romance novel, revealing it to be the old classic, The Notebook. Yeah, lucky me, I got the last copy on the shelf. Personal note here, to anybody who has not read or watched the movie The Notebook, I suggest that you look it up. It's an actually really good story. I watched it with my family and was actually really surprised how good it was. Later on in my life, I had to read the real book for school, and I have to say I was basically entranced by it. So if anybody has not seen or watched the movie about this book, you should definitely go watch it. And so was holding up the entire Maze Runner, seeming to be actually very excited to read the entire story. I know I said I was only going to get the first novel, but they had a sale on the entire set, so I just couldn't help myself. Another personal note, this is another book I give a lot of credit to. If I could have made this into a what if, I would have tried, but it's a very complicated thing to get into, but maybe it will be a project for the future. But I do love reading the actual series. I have the entire set in my room as I'm looking at it right now. I don't like the movie version because they take so much out, so if I was to give a suggestion, please read this series, but do not watch it, because James Dastner is one of the greatest authors. Zuku was happy for both of her friends finding the books that they were looking for. That's good. I ran into Recovery Girl, who helped me pick out all the books that I got. Recovery Girl tapped her cane on the ground to get all of the teens' attention. It truly is a wonderful thing seeing all you kids having fun and enjoying modern literature. I sometimes wonder for the future generation if they even will know what a book is, but technology advancements keep on being made every day, so allow me to purchase all of your books for you. All of them persist on not making her do that, but somehow the old granny was able to get all the books and carry them up to the cash register and then proceeded to pay for each and every one of them. Even with the teens trying to get back the money that she just spent for her, she gave each and one of them a bag that had all the books that they were supposed to be getting. He then proceeded to tell them to have a nice day and see them in the future at UA as she walked off. Ina then looked at her friends as she then looked at the books that the kind old lady just bought for her. Well, now this just makes me want to get into UA even more. Recovery Girl is expecting us. Zuku knew what she had to do with all the medical books that she got. As soon as she got home, as soon as possible, she needed to start studying right away. And so yawned a little bit as he was thinking about it. Then he looked at how each and every one of them had a bag, and the old lady was excited about them just reading books. I don't think that she's expecting us to get into UA, even though we can get in when the time comes. I think she just wanted to be a nice grandma and take the kids out and buy them stuff as long as they behaved. Izuku remembered that her Aunt Midnight brought up that Recovery Girl doesn't have any family, so she usually would treat the students of UA like her grandchildren. I think Shinso is right. Well, we shouldn't disappoint her. We still need to make it into UA. Mina nodded her head while getting ready to change the subject as she started to look towards the cafe that was connected to the bookstore. As much as I want to start preparing for my future, why don't we get some snacks and drinks from the cafe that's connected to the bookstore? They all nodded as they headed into the cafe, seeming to be old-fashioned as the tables were made out of pure wood and the chairs were pure metal. And if you were to look along the walls, you could see pages from different types of books that have quotes that would try to lighten up the mood. The heavy smell of coffee and baked spooks was really giving a lively vibe to the place. As the three of them find a nice table near a window so they can look outside to see the people going by. It didn't take long for a waitress to come by with the menus and then waited to see if they were ready to order right away. Izuku looked over the menu, already knowing what she was going to order. I'm going to have a caramel latte with a blueberry muffin. Mina looks over all the drinks that seem to be tasty when she finally finds one that she likes. I'll take a mango dragon drink with extra coconut milk along with a strawberry cheesecake. Shinso didn't even have to look at what he was going to drink, but then he looked over to see what kind of foods that they had. I'll take a double shot espresso along with an apple tart. Waitress writes everything down and hurries over to the counter with the order to prepare everything as quickly as possible. While the three of them were waiting for their order, we cut to across the street to a diner that was pointed right at the cafe as we find four individuals seeming to be watching over the three teens. And these four individuals are Present Mike, Eraserhead, Midnight, and Recovery Girl, who seem to actually be enjoying a nice little lunch while spying on the three teens. Recovery Girl chuckled at the idea of the three pros being overprotective of one person. I truly have to say it's a very big coincidence that the three of them happened to be going to this particular bookstore while I was supposed to meet the three of you at this diner. Eraserhead was casually sipping from his orange juice with a pair of binoculars, keeping an eye on the boy that was sitting really close to Izuku. Yeah, it's a pretty big coincidence. I couldn't imagine that they would go all this way to a bookstore when there probably is one closer to the school. Midnight, who seemed to be picking at her food so she could stay in the conversation while enjoying her lunch. I do have to say I'm glad that Izuku is making friends and that it seems that they're enjoying each other's company instead of trying to force a relationship. President Mike actually wasn't eating as he had both his hands on his binoculars, keeping a close eye on the boy who seems to keep on getting closer and closer to Izuku. Yeah, I just hope that guy keeps his hand to himself. The moment I see him touch her inappropriately, I'm gonna rush over there and scream his eardrums off. Recovery Girl enjoyed watching the three adults around her concerned for Izuku, but also wanted to get straight back to business. I already got her to agree to help me fix All Might in the future. Midnight stopped eating and she placed both her fork and knife down as she then looked at Recovery Girl with a concerned look on her face. It's not that I don't think that she can help you fix All Might, it's just that what if she can and she ends up failing and blaming herself for failing you and him? She's in a very delicate state of mind even though she's putting up a very strong front. Recovery Girl just nodded her head in agreement. I understand all of that. That's why I wanted to ask you if I should bring in All Might. Maybe he could inspire her to do even better than she is now. Eraserhead put down the binoculars that he was holding along with stopping drinking his orange juice as he looked directly at Recovery Girl with a serious glare. Do not bring that buffoon into any of this. If anything, he'll just put more pressure on her. He has no sense of tact and he barely knows how to treat students. Sure, he knows how to make the public feel better, but he also has his own way on making people feel worse even without realizing it, so I forbid him to be anywhere near Izuku. President Mike wasn't actually paying attention to the conversation. He started to zoom in on his binoculars, noticing that Shinso was trying to place his hand on top of Izuku's hand. Why, that cocky little purple-haired kid. Eraser, let me out of the booth right now. Eraserhead was confused about what Mike is trying to do. Why do you want out of the booth? I don't think that Recover Girl said anything that would cause you to be upset. President Mike wasn't even thinking about the conversation that they were supposed to be having as he just took a deep breath real quick. I saw that purple-haired kid trying to put his hand on top of Izuku's hand. Eraserhead quickly picked up his binoculars as he looked over to see what was going on as his hair started to levitate, symbolizing that his quirk was activated. Where? I don't see it, Mike. Midnight quickly grabbed the binoculars that were strapped around President Mike's neck as she decided she wanted to look through the window and wanted to get some of the gossip. And without her knowing, Mike was choking on the strap that was connected to the binoculars. Oh my god, is my little niece getting a boyfriend? Am I going to have to give her the talk later? Cover Girl shook her head as she saw the three of them acting like overprotective children instead of adults, even less than pro heroes, as she quickly took up her cane and whacked all three of them on top of the head to get them to sit back down in the booth and look at her. Okay, first, all of you need to let the kid live her life a little bit. I understand that you want to protect protect her, but you can't keep the world out of her life. There will be ups and downs no matter what she goes through. And second, I need to understand if all of you are going to take her medical study seriously. I understand that a hero has to do a lot with investigation or punching somebody in the face, but the medical field could really benefit from her help. Mike was choking for about 3 seconds until he grabbed the binoculars from Midnight as he was breathing like it would be his last breakfast. He took the binoculars off from around his neck and then placed them back on the table. After taking a few more seconds to breathe, he then focused back over at Recovery Girl. Look, we just want to make sure that she's happy. We know that a boy broke her heart last time and nearly caused her to kill herself. We just want to make sure that she doesn't end up doing that again. Mike then pulls out a handkerchief as he starts crying a little bit. Because if anything bad happens to her, I just don't know what I might do. Recovery Girl shook her head in annoyance as she tapped her cane on the table, trying to get all of them to focus right back on her again. If you want my opinion, the best way to protect her is to not basically shelter her from the world. Let her experience life and be there for when she's at her lowest or when she needs to ask you for advice on things. Not overprotecting her like there's a wall around her keeping her away from society that will probably hurt her more than help her. So why don't you just sit back, enjoy our lunch, and let the kids have fun today. The three pros realized that Recovery Girl was right as they decided to sit back down in the booth, allowing themselves to continue on with their own private conversation and lunch. As we cut back over to the cafe with the teens actually having one question on their mind but wondering who was going to be the one to speak up about it first. Izuku looked over at Shinso, worried that her question was about to ruin the mood that they had, but she wanted to get this over with. Hey, I was wondering why everybody avoids you. I know you said that you have a villain quirk, but I don't understand. How can a power be labeled as villainous? Shinso was caught a little bit out of the blue as he was coughing on the drink that he was trying to sip on as he was starting to sit back down, steadying himself. Well, before I answer that, why don't you tell me why you don't seem to act like the person you truly are? It seems like you put on some kind of mask to hide your true face. Mina felt a little bit left out as she was wondering why neither of them asked what was bothering her or why certain people look at her different. Hey, what about me? Don't you care how certain people treat me, or am I just a third wheel in this whole situation? Both Izuku and Shinso looked over at Mina as they held out their hands, motioning for her to go on and tell them. Mina had a very worried look on her face, not expecting both Izuku and Shinso to point to her to go first, so she decided to try to come up with the best way to start breaking the ice about the situation. Well, the reason why most people look at me weird is because they don't think I'm human. I know that it's not weird for people to have animal-like features or have different skin mutation, but a lot of people just can't accept it. It's almost like they don't think that we're human anymore after we get our quirks. I try to hide it behind my cheery personality, but sometimes it's hard. But then I met Izuku, who didn't even hesitate to talk to me or ask for my opinion on things. There's also Shinso, but he always tries to ignore me because he says that I drain his stamina way too quickly. And so seeing that a lot of her statement pointed towards him at the end, understanding where she's coming from, unique types being usually looked at weird, but then took the opportunity to go next. Well, people were always afraid of me after my quirk awakening, knowing that I could basically make people do whatever I want whenever they answer one of my questions. After a while, people tried to suck up to me, thinking that they would be safe from my quirk, or they would just try to ostracize me by telling others to stay away from me because I become a villain in the future. But it's not true. I really want to do my best and do good in the future so I can become a great hero one day. And so Mina were both looking at Izuku, wondering what she was going to say, only for them to see her on the verge of tears and shaking as the both of them got out of their seat and onto her side and held her really close, thinking that her trauma might be even worse than theirs. After a few minutes, Izuku calmed down, allowing both of her friends to sit back down in their chairs as she was just catching her breath. I really am afraid to tell the both of you mine because I believe the both of you will look at me like I'm some kind of freak if I tell you. And so just had a very serious look on his face as he continued to look at Izuku. I promise you this, Izuku, no matter what you tell me, I will still be your friend. Ina was shocked by what she just heard, but continued to smile for her friend's sake as she allowed her bubbly personality to come out to the surface. Same goes for me. No matter what it is, I will always be by your side, Izuku. Izuku took a quick sip of her drink as her hands were still shaking a little bit, knowing that it's not going to be easy to explain that you're not the person that you look like. Okay, well, technically I'm not a girl. I'm going to start off with that. Shinso didn't understand that statement at first, but then remembered the small explanation that Izuku gave about her quirk when they first started talking to each other. I see, so you used your quirk to change your gender. Izuku shook her head frantically like she didn't want to say the word yes herself, so she decided to just put it through motions. Well, there is a little bit more behind it, but I want to hear both of your opinions on this first thing that I've told you. Ina had sparkles in her her eyes, just thinking about the possibility of living a life as both a female and a male at the same time. That's straight up amazing. You get to live the ideal world of being on both sides of the spectrum. Can you do it to other people, or are you only limited to doing it to yourself? Shinzo found it a little bit funny this was the big secret that Izuku was trying to hide. Thinking back on it, he sometimes looked over articles on his computer about people trying to find ways to change their gender through surgery. I really don't see what the big deal is. You're still you, male or female, so if this was your big secret, I don't know why you were so afraid to tell us about it. Izuku was actually surprised how easily her friends took this information and was not judging her. Well, technically I didn't know I could do that for the longest time. I only found out when I tried to commit suicide on myself. And so spit out the drink that he was sipping on while Mina fell out of her seat and onto her behind on the floor, as both of them were extremely shocked. After they got themselves back to their senses, they got up close to Izuku wanting to get more answers about the situation. Mina gently grabbed onto both of Izuku's arms with a very serious look on her face. Tell me who hurt you. You are way too innocent and pure to be hurt like that. Shinzo had both his fists clenched, angry with himself, thinking that he was the only one who had problems in his life. When such an innocent girl was nearly close to killing herself, he had to know more about the situation. Please tell us more. We want to know what happened that led you to that point. Izuku had to steady herself, feeling a little bit sad knowing that it actually hasn't been that long since her entire suicide, loss of family, and broken heart by the person that she thought could love her. Well, technically it started back in my old school. Technically I was also still my male self at the time, and I fell in love with one of my classmates. Sure, he was a little bit brash and hard toward others, but I thought that we had an understanding. I tried giving him chocolates on Valentine's Day. He looked at me like he was disgusted, and while I was technically gay at the time, he took me up to the roof and beat the crap out of me and then left me there for dead. Shinzo fell back into his chair, trying to comprehend such a story for how everything can start out so innocent and then turn so violent. What's the guy's name? Maybe we can have your new family go after him so he can pay for his crimes. Izuku shook her head no, like she didn't want to cause any more issues. I'm trying to leave that in the past. I'm not going to let him control my life, but that's not even the worst part of my entire story. Ina was thinking about Izuku's situation, knowing that she lives with her aunt, not with her mother or her father, and that's when she got a sad look on her face. Let me guess, your mom and dad are no longer with you? Izuku held her head down low like she was about to cry. No, I probably could have handled if my mom and dad were dead by now. My dad left when I was a baby, and my mom recently abandoned me because of all the problems coming up at school, and just gave me away to my aunt who didn't want to abandon me. After we met up with her friends at Eraserhead's house, she placed me in the back room, and when I woke up I was laying in a bed all alone. So I took my hand at the time, thinking that I could only extend my fingernails and just plunged them straight into my chest, ready to kill myself, and that's when this miracle happened to me. Mina took a few minutes just thinking about this, never expecting her new friend to have such a tragic past and not that far away from modern times right now. I am truly sorry that you had to go through all of that. Zuko tried her best to smile, not wanting to blow this entire situation out of proportion. It truly is okay. I've learned to cope with it. I think that I'm getting a lot better thanks to you guys. And so carefully and quickly grabbed onto Izuku's hand. I just want you to know that if that guy tries to show up in your life again and make things difficult for you, I'll be there to help you because I am your friend. Mina followed the same gesture, grabbing onto Izuku's right arm carefully. We are all in this together. We are the outcasts, but we're gonna live our best lives by helping each other out. Izuku had tears going down her cheeks, but a massive smile on her face as she looks at her two friends that were able to accept everything that she just told them. Yes, we will be able to go through anything because we have each other. After the three of them had their heart-to-heart conversation and finished having their drinks and snacks at the cafe, they went over to Izuku's house. After opening the door, they actually were surprised to see Eraserhead, Present Mike, and Midnight sitting on the couch watching the news in their casual clothes. Midnight was the first one to get off the couch and greet the kids as she hugged Izuku so tightly and pressing her face into her bosom. Welcome home. I heard from Recover Girl that she helped you get some medical books that you've been needing. Is someone thinking about leaving the hero career behind and going into the medical field? Izuku took a few minutes to pry herself out of her auntie's grip and her face out of her bosom so she could breathe. No, I just need these so I can use my quirk better. I will always try to be a hero. Even if I can't be a combat hero, I'll be a great rescue hero. Eraserhead got himself off the couch slowly, kind of dragging himself over towards everybody else, looking like he wanted to go to bed but was staying awake because he should. I thought I've explained this to you before, Izuku. Just because your quirk isn't meant for combat doesn't mean that you can't learn how how to fight with your own hands. Izuku picked up her school bag along with the bag containing her new medical books as she wanted to go place them down in her room. I'm going to go place my books and my school bag in my room. I'll be right back. Everybody watched as she ran off to her room to go place down her stuff as Shinso took this opportunity to try to get Eraserhead's attention. Excuse me, sir, is there a chance that I could speak to you in private? I want to talk to you about something important. Eraserhead raises an eyebrow, wondering what Shinso could want, but was a little bit worried, thinking that he was going to ask for a picture and autograph, but decided to humor the boy. Sure, let's go talk in the backyard, but I'll let you know this first, that if you are trying to get an autograph or picture with me because I'm a pro hero, I will automatically throw you out of my house. I am not one of those people who are a fan of the media. Shinso nodded his head, understanding the reasoning and how annoying reporters can usually be. Trust me when I tell you this is actually more important than any autograph or photo that I could get with you. Nina watched the both of them walk towards the backyard as she was standing in front of her idol Midnight. As much as she wanted to ask for an autograph, there was something more important on her mind that she wanted to bring up. Excuse me, Midnight, but can we also find someplace private to talk? I have an important question for you. Midnight had a very seductive smile on her face, thinking that Mina might really have a naughty side to her, trying to really get the attention of one of her idols. Sure thing, cutie, but you should know that you're a little bit too young for me, and I'm usually straight, but can be persuaded. Mina was blushing as she was swinging her hands in front of her face. It's not like that. I actually really do need to ask you something, and it's a really big deal. Midnight got a little bit more serious, seeing how the girl was actually trying to have a serious conversation with her instead of having the flirty banter that they usually get to have with one another. Alright, the both of us can go talk in my room. By the time Izuku came back to the living room, Mike was the only one still there, looking a little bit depressed because no one wanted to talk to him, only for Izuku to join him on the couch and give him a tight hug, trying to cheer the man up. So, anything interesting happened to you today at school, Uncle Mike? Cousin Mike had a big smile on his face, getting ready to do his usual announcements like he's an announcer for a show. Well, my great listener, I have to say some of my classes could have been easier if a lot of them actually remembered to do their homework properly. But what really got me curious right now is that your two friends are talking with Eraserhead and Midnight right now. Zuko started to get curious, noticing that the both of them were actually not in the living room anymore. You know, now that you bring it up, I'm actually curious about what they're talking about as well. Cousin Mike got up from the couch and go get something to drink and came back with 2 cans of Sprite, one for himself and one for Izuku. It's best not to pry. They say that it was important to both of them, each person that they asked about the situation, though it's probably best for you to wait for them to tell you in the future instead of trying to pry and force information out of them. Izuku agreed as she went to open her can of soda, only for it to spray all over her as she got all sticky from it. Uncle Mike, did you shake up the can before you gave it to me? Cousin Mike was laughing as he had a big grin on his face. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm guessing that the universe wanted to play a little bit of a cosmic joke on you. As if the universe was listening to him, when he went to go open his own can, it sprayed all over his face as he was trying to calm himself down. He then realized that Izuku was laughing as he joined in on the amusing joke that the universe just played on them. Well, it looks like the universe was listening and wanted me to join in on the joke. We then cut away to the backyard as we see Shinso and Eraserhead sitting on a bench and seeming to be looking at the skies, not really talking yet, as Eraserhead said he wanted to get to the bottom of this already. So what was so important that you had to pull me out here before I could even say hello to Izuku? Shinso took a deep breath, realizing that he was about to ask a lot of Eraserhead, who didn't even really know him personally. I would like to personally ask you to train me. My quirk does not help me in combat. It's more for espionage or for deceiving people. Eraserhead leans back on the bench swing, not expecting such a request, wondering why this kid wanted to start training so bad. Kid, I hardly know you, and I'm guessing that at least you know who I am since you're asking such a request, but why should I help you? And so started to realize that he might have jumped the gun asking Eraserhead such a request right off the bat. Well, I've recently heard about Izuku's past, and I care a lot about her even though I just got to know her, but she's like a bundle of joy and light that just accepted me even though a lot of people in our class told her not to. She even went so far out of her way to hang out with me, so I want to be able to repay her kindness by protecting her in the future and helping her out with her own goals. Eraserhead thought about that statement and was happy even though this boy hasn't had much contact with Izuku, but was already willing to go the distance, but still needed to see how big his resolve was for this mission. And what exactly do I get in return for teaching you? You do realize that I have to put a lot of my own personal time out just to help someone like you. Judging by your physique, you don't have a lot of physical training, so we would have to do a lot of physical training before I can even teach you anything, which is going to take up even more of my time. Shinso had to think quick as he was sweating a little bit trying to come up with something. To be honest, I don't really have anything to give you. All I can tell you is that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll go through any trial that you throw at me. I just want to be able to help Izuku. She's already helping by just being there. I don't have many friends, and even though Mina drains my stamina like a sponge, she's important to me as well. Because she kept on trying to be my friend even though I kept pushing her away, so for the both of their sakes, I need to become strong enough to help them in the future. Eraserhead was smiling, loving what he was hearing, seeing that fire in Shinso's eye along with a platinum will of determination. Alright, come by tomorrow. I'll have a workout schedule for you to take on, and I'll be keeping an eye on you to make sure that you're actually doing the regimen that I gave you. For the next few months, depending on your progress, will determine if I will be able to teach you my fighting style or if maybe we have to find a special fighting style just for you. Shinso stood up from the bench swing as he bowed down in a sign of respect for Eraserhead. Thank you so much, Sensei. I promise that I will never make you regret this decision. Eraserhead chuckled a little bit, wanting to play around with Shinso just a little bit along with seeing where his thoughts are. So what exactly are your feelings towards Izuku, since she probably told you everything about her originally being a he but now is a she? How does that make you feel? Shinso stood up as he was scratching the back of his head trying to find the right words and was kind of blushing a little bit. To be honest with you, it doesn't really matter what Izuku is. She could be whatever she wants to be. I think that she's interesting no matter what. Shinso thought to himself that he wanted to be careful with his phrasing because Eraserhead could be some kind of father figure to Izuku. I truly just want to do what's right for her, just like how I know Izuku wants to do what's best for me. Eraserhead noticed that blush on the boy's face and know that this might be more than just a simple friendship. There might be love in the air, and that's when he started to sit up on the porch swing as he started to get that more fatherly appearance. I see, from how you're wording it and how your face looks right now, I can almost mistake it for love, but maybe not love because it's a little bit too strong, but you at least like her. Shinso started to get all red and flustered as he was trying to find the right thing to say since Eraserhead was getting all serious and had a very grim expression on his face. Well, I wouldn't say exactly I don't like her. She's very cute and also has a very great personality, but it's not even about that. If nothing were to even happen between us, I will always be there for her no matter what. Eraserhead actually let out a real laugh. Even though it sounded exhausting coming from him, he still laughed very hard. Calm down, I'm only teasing. I just wanted to gauge your reaction and have a little bit of fun. From here on out, I might have to watch you when you're with her so you don't try to do anything inappropriate to her. Shinso had a sweat drop going down his forehead as he tried to keep a smile even though he was getting very tired. Well, I do wish to let you know that I don't plan to cause an issue, sir, and I do truly appreciate that you will take the time out of your schedule to help me. He then cut away from the both of them as we go inside a midnight room to see a lot of clothes all over the floor and the bed half made. With the blinds closed as Midnight sits down on the bed wondering what Mina could actually be wanting to talk to her about. Oh, what did you want to talk to me in private? Is it finally around that time where you start to get more curious about boys? Mina chuckled a little bit at that comment. Well, it's not about boys, and to be honest, I'm actually bi, but I'm not here to talk to you about that in private. I'm actually here to ask you to give me a chance and teach me all of your skills. Midnight had a very big smile on her face as she was clapping both of her hands a little bit in joy. Are you asking me to be your teacher in seduction, or are you asking me to teach you in the ways of hero work? Mina thought about it for a little bit, but then realized that both traits could actually be useful. Actually, if you don't mind, I would like to learn both. You are a major idol in my eyes. You know your own strengths and your own weaknesses. But if I'm able to learn half of what you're able to do, I might actually be able to accomplish some of my own goals. Midnight was now giving Mina her full attention. And what exactly are your goals, if you don't mind me asking? Mina knew that this might be touching upon a sore spot in Midnight's life, especially since it has to do with Izuku. Izuku told me about what happened to her, and I want to help keep that smile on her face that she's starting to get back because she's my friend, but sometimes I think that she's something more than that. He started to grip onto her shirt right above her heart as her face started to turn a little bit red. We'd been hanging out for a few weeks before she joined up at my school, and she just seems to always lighten up my day and make me feel like less of an outcast every time that I'm with her. Midnight was holding on to herself as she was rocking back and forth with a smile on her face. Oh, I can see the deep passion within your soul for my Izuku, and I've been seeing you girls hang out a lot. If she's willing to trust you with her secret, then I'm more than willing to give you my help and train you. Mina had sparkles in her eyes as she was jumping up and down with her arms in the air. Thank you so much, Midnight. I appreciate this so much. So what do you want to teach me first? Midnight thought about it for a second and realized that she can not only just pull a great joke, but also teach a girl not to have any humility. Her first lesson is to run around the house in nothing but your underwear and bra, not covering yourself and screaming out, "This is my body and this is what it's supposed to be like. Respect it or don't, I don't care." Mina had a sweat drop going down her forehead, thinking that Midnight must be joking with her. That's a joke, right? There's no way you're going to make me run around the house in my underwear in front of two grown men, Izuku and Shinso, right? Midnight had an intimidating smirk on her face as she was licking her lip. Oh, trust me, darling, when it comes to stuff like this, I do not joke. Midnight kept that sadistic smile on her face like she was not joking one bit. If you're able to do this without freaking out or running back here, it means that you've learned to accept who you are no matter what situation you're put in. After a few minutes, Shinso and Eraserhead came back in from the backyard and headed towards the living room, only to see Izuku and Mike watching a movie. What they didn't expect to happen next was for Mina to come running out of Midnight's room wearing nothing but her red thong and a matching red bra as she was running around the house in front of them. Mina was so red in the face that you couldn't actually tell that she had pink skin as she was hopping around with her arms stretched out. "This is my body and this is what it's supposed to be. Respect it or don't, I don't care." Izuku's face was turning red as she saw Mina as a little bit of blood trickled out of her nose. "I don't even know what to say for what I'm looking at right now." Shinso collapsed behind the couch as he was completely caught off guard by what he just saw. "Sensei, was this a part of your training without me even realizing it?" President Might went over to the closet and brought out a towel, starting to chase after Mina. "Lady, you need to have more respect for yourself. Put this towel around you and go find your clothes." Eraserhead looks over towards Midnight Room to see that she is standing right in her doorframe snapping pictures of everybody's reaction. "I had a feeling this had something to do with you, Midnight." Midnight just kept on snapping pictures of everybody's reaction, just enjoying her life in this moment. What? She wanted me to teach her some stuff, so I'm teaching her about humility by having her run around the people that she cares about most in her underwear. If she can do this without caring, then she's truly learning. Ina finally felt like her embarrassment should be over as she ran back into Midnight's room to put her clothes on and maybe find a hole to put her head in. "I can't believe I really just did that. I gave in to peer pressure way too easily with you, Midnight." Izuku's face was still red as she had an image of Mina in her underwear just painted out on her eyes as she was trying to gain back her focus. "Auntie, why didn't you ever make me do something like that?" Midnight smiled as she saw this as an opportunity to tease her niece. "Oh, come on, Izuku. You had to enjoy the show. You got to see a full view. Maybe next time I'll have her run around naked for you." Izuku's face got even more red as steam started to come out of her ears like she was about to have a mental breakdown. "I don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't be making Mina do stuff like that." Eraserhead went into the kitchen and grabbed out 2 ice packs, one for Izuku and the other one for Shinso, to help both of them calm down as he started to look towards Midnight. "I would appreciate it if you wouldn't turn that young girl into another version of you, Midnight. Only one generation should have to deal with that kind of crazy." Midnight started to pout a little bit as she folded both of her arms over her chest. "What is that supposed to mean? That girl should feel honored to be able to do what I do. Put a show on while saving the world. It's a perfect thing that any woman should be able to do for anybody." President Mike was shaking his head like things are only gonna get worse before they get any better. "I'm sorry, Midnight, but for once I have to agree with Eraserhead. Can you at least try to teach the girl some of your stuff without going right off the deep end? She must be feeling humiliated having to run in front of her friends like that." Shinso finally stood up as he got over to the couch and sat down, as he still had a little bit of a nosebleed because of the image in his mind. "I'm starting to think that shame is overrated." Midnight smiled, hearing that Shinso was approving of what she was doing in a way. "Oh, don't worry, young man. By the time I'm done with my niece and Mina, the both of them will be girls that boys will be drooling at their feet just trying to get their attention." Shinso thought about the implication of both of his friends being seductive as Midnight as it made him drool for a second, but then he realized how bad it would be for him as he started to shiver like crazy. "I am very concerned for the future of all males." Zuku's face was beet red just imagining herself trying to do what Mina just did, along with having her aunt's mindset. "I don't think I can do anything like that. I'm already embarrassed just thinking about it." Mina came back to the living room after putting on her clothes and sitting down on the couch next to Izuku as she had her face covered from the embarrassment that she was feeling. "Please don't judge me for my action. Midnight eventually talked me into it and I just gave in." Eraserhead glared at Midnight, knowing that he had to intervene before both girls were truly corrupted. "I will not stand for this. I will make sure that all 3 of them understand that there should be shame for their actions." Midnight Midnight refolded her arms underneath her chest, leaving her bosom right on her arms, giving off the full curvature of her body. There's nothing wrong with being comfortable within your own skin and having other people see it. President Mike finally brought himself back into the entire conversation, getting over his shock of what he just dealt with. Well, there's being comfortable in your own skin, and then there's just being a pervert. And no offense, Midnight, I'd rather not turn these young, impressionable teens into small versions of you. Midnight bit down on her lower lip, a little bit annoyed with both of her friends trying to shut down her way of life and passing it on to the next generation. Well, too bad. Mina asked me for training, and I'm going to train my young student the way that I want to do it. Eraserhead sighed a little bit, realizing what Mina wanted to talk to Midnight about earlier was all about. What a coincidence. Shinso actually asked me to give him some private lessons as well, so I don't need you corrupting my student. President Mike looked over towards Eraserhead and then looked over towards Midnight, realizing that he was left out, but then realized a little bit that there's a chance that Izuku might ask him for some lessons, and neither one of them have claimed her yet, as he started to pray, hoping that Izuku is going to want his guidance. Wait, so the both of you have already been given offers. Does that mean I'm going to get one from my fellow listener Izuku over there? Izuku started to scratch the back of her head, feeling a little bit embarrassed being put on the spot like that. I would definitely like to learn some stuff from you, Mike, but I technically need to focus more on the medical field so my quirk can be used at its full potential, and then maybe just getting a little bit of martial arts skills that I was planning to ask Eraserhead for. President Mike felt betrayed as he went over to the corner of the room and just started drawing circles on the floor with his finger. No, I get it. No one wants to learn from a DJ. It's not like I don't have years of combat or rescue experience under my belt. Izuku goes over to Mike and just pats him on the back, not wanting him to feel bad. I'm sure there are things that you can teach me alongside the others, so please don't be sad. Mina wanted to help cheer up Mike by getting up and having a really good idea. You can probably teach us how to work a crowd. You seem to have the best people skills out of everyone. Shinso realized what was going on and decided to give his opinion, but stayed on the couch so he can continue to recover from his nosebleed. Plus, you could give all three of us some music lessons, since music sometimes can calm down people when they're stressed out, or at least a good conversation starter. You never know what's going to happen to you when you're out there on the field, so better be ready for anything, right? President Mike stood up with his fist in the air with flames in his eyes, like he was ready to make sure that everybody in this room understood the ability of music. And trust me, you will be ready for the situation. I will cram lessons into all three of your heads until you're able to tell me any song backwards, and if you can't, I will shave my head bald. Everybody in the room kinda had a sweat drop hearing that statement and think that it's finally time for everybody to go to their proper home or room, with everybody saying their goodbyes. While Mina and Shinso were walking home, the both of them had something on their mind, but they didn't know how to bring it up to one another until Mina got fed up with the silence. Why do you suddenly want to train so badly with Eraserhead? I get that he's one of your favorite pro heroes, but it's kinda out of the blue for you to want to train so badly. Shinso was curious, wondering what Mina might think if he gave her his true intention, so he decided to give her a half-truth answer. I just thought that it would be best to be prepared, and if my idol is willing to help me, I might as well take the opportunity. Mina tilted her head, not fully believing that answer, and started to feel a little bit concerned as her heart started to pump a little bit faster than usual. Well, my reason for training, if you're curious, is because I want to be there for Izuku. After hearing her story, all I can think about is wanting to be there by her side. There's something about her that just keeps on making me feel all warm inside no matter what I do. And so blushed a little bit just thinking about Izuku. Listen, I get what you mean. Even though I haven't known her as long as you, there's just something about the way she talks that makes my heart skip a beat. Mina nodded as her cheeks got a little bit more pink than usual. I can definitely understand that. Hopefully with the both of us here for her, she can keep that smile on her face, because I would not be able to smile myself if it vanished. And so smiled as he playfully shoved Mina aside, not wanting to see her get all sappy or even sad. And that just means that we have to get as powerful as possible. Even though our quirks may not be flash, we'll make up for it with style. Both of them bump fists as they go their separate ways. As a few weeks pass, with school being boring, Izuku continued to look into the medical field, with it almost hard these days to see her without a medical book in hand. Some teachers thought that she was going to give up being a hero to become a professional doctor. Shinso started to do his own research into becoming like a detective, seeing underneath the underneath in certain situations. He could also be seen at all times carrying a book known as The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And again, some of the teachers were starting to think that another person who could have become a great hero would soon become one of the world's greatest detectives. Mina got on a major health kick and actually started practicing practicing forms of dances that would be great around combat. It makes the body more flexible while also continuing to have her own hobbies. Instead of having a book on her like all of her other friends, she seems to be carrying around a jug that's filled with vegetable juice or 4 bottles of water on her at all times. It was very interesting seeing the different development in these 3 students when all 3 of them finally got a text message from Eraserhead telling them to meet them at the beach. It's time to truly train all 3 of you, so quickly gather your things and hurry over to the beach. As they arrived, they saw both Eraserhead and Midnight, finding it odd that Mike wasn't with them. Eraserhead looked at his watch as he saw that all 3 of them at least had some decent time frames. Took all of you 20 minutes to get here. Hopefully by the time we're done with training, you'll be able to get here at least 10 minutes earlier. Midnight decided to wear a black and white bikini, seeming to want to enjoy the beach, while her unlikely counterpart Eraserhead seemed to be wearing his usual outfit. Alright, we're both very sorry for taking a couple of weeks for us to come up with a proper regimen for the 3 of you, but we finally came to an agreement. So starting today, I'll be teaching the girls in my section of the beach, while Eraserhead is going to be taking Shinso into the city for his own special training, and every few days we're going to switch off, so I hope the 3 of you are ready for everything. Shinso was having a blush on his face seeing the very revealing bikini that Midnight was wearing and struggling to stay focused. If you don't mind, why exactly are you wearing a bikini to train Izuku and Mina, if you don't mind me asking? Midnight noticed the blush on Shinso's face as she started to walk a little bit closer to him, swinging her hips in a calming flowing motion. That's a secret that you'll have to wait and hear from your friends about. Shinso got a nosebleed as he quickly covered it with his hands. He was trying to focus as he rushed past Midnight and went over to Eraserhead and say, "Can we please get going? I want to start training as soon as possible." Shinso's heart was racing, knowing that if he sees Midnight any longer, he might pass out. He just really badly want to get things started before anything else happens. Eraserhead chuckled a little bit, seeing this innocent boy trying to avoid the issue. Sure, just know that once we get started, there's going to be no slacking off, and once we start, there is no stopping until it's finished. Both of them run off into the city to do their own special training as we cut back to the girls on the beach. Both Izuku and Mina had a little bit of blush on their face looking at Midnight, but they weren't as badly flustered as Shinso, as Izuku got a little bit curious, wanting to figure out what her auntie was up to. "So, auntie, what exactly is our training for today? Because judging by your outfit, we're not leaving the beach." Midnight had a seductive smile on her face as she was way too excited to get this started to see how the girls are going to react to this training. That's simple. Since a lot of people are going to be on the beach later, I thought that it would be best to teach you how to be more comfortable in your own skin, so I bought you these special bikinis that the both of you are going to wear and walk around the beach in a little while. Mina had a look of dread on her face, knowing that Midnight had no form of shame and seeming to be trying to rub that off on the both of them as she shivered at the thought of what these bikinis might look like. How exactly is this going to help us with our hero careers in the future just by walking around the beach in bikinis? Midnight was happy knowing that they were asking questions instead of just going along with whatever she says by grabbing 2 bags that were by her feet and handing them to the girls. It's very simple actually, no offense to costume makers, but clothes tear very easily, and I've seen a couple of female heroes fold under the pressure the moment too much of their skin is exposed, or something inappropriate starts to be shown, and just easily get defeated. I'm trying to get that embarrassment out of your system, that way just in case anything like that were to happen to the both of you, you'll still be able to fight no matter what. Zuku's cheeks started to get red just imagining being in that situation, but also realizing that her aunt always has more to say but tries to leave out as many details as possible. So what exactly is our requirement to pass this test, because it seems like you're skipping over something? Ina released a breath that she didn't even realize she was holding, thankful that Izuku pointed that out because she was so nervous to ask herself. "Yes, can you please explain what the objective is for today?" Midnight just smiled as she held out the 2 bags in front of the girls. "Well, it's simple, ladies. We're going to use your womanly charms on 3 males to get random objects of your choosing. If you bring all of your stuff to appear within 1 hour, you will not have to do the punishment." Midnight started to chuckle a little bit evilly as she started to get her camera ready. "If you fail at this task, you will have to do skinny dipping for 30 minutes in the water while everybody is still here." Ina had a chill going down her spine just hearing that as she grabbed onto the bag that Midnight was holding out to her. "Are you serious? So you're saying if we fail, we basically have to humiliate ourselves even further?" Izuku felt like she wanted to run away from this training regime because it might be the end of her. "Yeah, don't you think this is a little bit cruel for a punishment for our first test?" Midnight gently grabbed onto Izuku's hand as she gave her the bag that she's been holding out to them as she started to get a very sadistic smile looking at her new trainees. No, I think it's actually appropriate. It shows that you have to understand how far you have to go to be a pro. You have to do anything it takes to succeed. Midnight then proceeded to point her finger directly at Izuku. And you, young lady, I think it's time that you start putting your training with those medical books to full use. I want you while you're changing to pump your body full of the proper feminine hormones that you're supposed to have, so you can truly let your curves come in and show off that proper body that you're supposed to have as a girl, and quit hiding behind this tomboy figure that you keep on giving yourself. Izuku blushed like crazy. If anybody was to look at her, they would think that her cheeks got sunburned. Do I really have to? I'm not really comfortable showing off that much skin, and I'm still getting used to this new form that I have right now. Ina was confused, thinking that this was Izuku's full-on female form. Wait, are you telling me that you haven't even taken on your full female form yet? Izuku scratches the back of her head a little bit embarrassed. Well, I technically have taken on my female form, but what my auntie is suggesting that I use my hormones to pump estrogen into my body that is appropriate for my age to help increase my development quicker. It's definitely possible and I can easily do it, but sometimes I'm just embarrassed thinking about what I could look like and what if I don't change that much at all. Ina gets stars in her eyes just wanting to see a more developed Izuku. Please show us your true female form. I bet you would look fantastic. Midnight does decide to interject by pulling both of them over to the changing tent so both girls can put on their bikinis. As both of them went into separate tents to get changed, Mina was the first one to come out sporting a purple lace bikini that seemed to hug her figure perfectly. Midnight, do I even want to know why you know my measurements so well? Midnight smiled as she gave a thumbs up for the nice figure. You got your measurements from your clothes when you decided to go running around the house in your underwear and bra. Ina blushed as she remembered her embarrassing little incident as she started to look back and forth trying to find Izuku to see if she came out, only to find out that she is still changing. Izuku, come on, what's taking you so long? Izuku was feeling so embarrassed, especially with the bikini, not knowing if she was going to be able to do this. I just need a few minutes. I'm worried that the both of you are going to laugh at me. Ina had a small smile on her face as she was just shaking her head back and forth. I'm sure you're gonna look great. Come on out. Remember, we have to deal with this together. Izuku took a deep breath as she grabbed onto both flaps of the tent. Okay, but either one of you laugh and I'm going right back in there, changing into my school uniform and leaving the beach. Midnight was actually getting quite excited as she wanted to see what her niece looked like now. Don't worry, you know that the both of us would support you no matter what. Izuku finally came out of the tent, showing that she is now sporting long green hair that seems to glisten in the sunlight, along with skin that seemed to be so fair that if you were to touch it, it possibly would feel like silk, and sporting a luxurious rainbow bikini that seemed to be hugging her new high-tier C-cup breasts, along with her ass that seemed to have gotten a lot more curvature. As she started to come out more, they noticed that her figure went from being slim to a perfect hourglass shape, almost looking like she could be mistaken for a swimsuit model. Both Mina and Midnight seemed to almost have their jaws on the floor, being stunned from how Izuku looked. But what caught Mina's eyes was a special necklace that seemed to have both male and female symbol overlapping one another. Hey Izuku, what is that necklace for? I don't think I've seen you wear that. Izuku was still blushing, trying to get over the fact that she has all these curves now and that it's the first time she's even wearing a bikini. Oh well, you see, I had my aunt get this customly made for me. It's to show that I support gay pride. I may be a girl now and my feelings towards things might have changed for my dating life, but I still support those who are gay because I know that back then I would have appreciated if somebody had supported me. Personal note. Okay, so I'm not going to lie, I did not actually look up the true gay pride symbol, so I just put both gender labels as they overlap each other, showing that they are equal, so please do not get upset in the comment section because I did not actually look up the real symbol. Midnight walks over to Izuku and then just goes around in a circle analyzing Izuku's new body. Well, I'm definitely going to have to take you shopping again, but damn did you get our family genes. A few more years and you might actually be able to compete with your auntie and look. Izuku blushed, almost covering herself, but she knew that the moment that she would cover herself that her auntie would chastise her for it. Alright, so should we get started already? Ina gulped as she looked over at the beach, noticing that a lot of guys started to show up and knowing that they had to get past them to get their objective done with so they can finally get this over with. Let's get this started already. I'm kind of more excited to see how the boys are going to react to you, Izuku-chan. Both Izuku and Mina started to head towards the crowd, and it didn't take long for a couple of guys to start to notice them as they were making their way over to the duo. Mina started to put on a flirty flirting smile, as Izuku seemed to have a blush that could make anybody's heart melt. As the group of three guys finally gets up to them, trying to show off a little bit of their muscle, while one of them was showing off his weak ice quirk and the last one was trying to think of some kind of cool pickup line. Hey, what's two lovely ladies like yourself doing at the beach by yourself? Mina kept a smile on her face, not really happy seeing that the guys were trying to be straightforward and noticing that Izuku was trying to hide behind her. Well, we came here to get a tan, but it got so hot so we were thinking about getting some ice cream. Do you think some strong men like yourself can get that for us? We would really appreciate it. Second guy raised an eyebrow, thinking that these girls were trying to take advantage of them just to get free stuff. Hey, listen ladies, we just met. You don't think that we're just going to roll over and do whatever you want? Izuku finally came out from behind Mina, wanting to defend her friend. Hey, now, we're not saying you have to pay for it with your own money. My friend was just trying to see if you would go get it for us because we could just pay you back. Do you not realize how hot this sand is to walk on? The second guy automatically lost all of his composure when he saw the bombshell with green hair standing in front of him. Oh, I'm so very sorry. You know, I sometimes just say things in the wrong order. Why don't you let me go get you girls some ice cream? It will be my treat to make up for it. Zuko was blinking in confusion, wondering why the guy suddenly was so willing to go get them ice cream as she just watched him run off, noticing that the third and final guy seemed to be coming out of his super and grabbing onto Izuku's hand. Wow, your skin is so soft and smooth. You must really take good care of yourself. Izuku was turning an even darker shade of red than before as she tried to calm herself down and think about what her auntie would do in this situation when she finally came up with an idea. You know, I said that we only needed ice cream, but I would love a sun hat, and I know a strong boy like yourself would be able to find me one, wouldn't you? Zuko starts to make a very seductive looking face as she looks at him as she starts to flutter her eyelashes. And I would truly appreciate it if you can get that done for me. The third guy's heart nearly skipped a beat as he saw the beauty in front of him, knowing that she needed something to protect her fair skin. You leave it to me, I'll make sure to find the greatest sun hat on this beach. Ina noticed that the third guy was running off, leaving a dust cloud behind him, realizing that Izuku already had the second thing that she was going to need to fit the requirement. Lucky for her, she still had the first guy all to herself. Hey there, big boy, do you have any spray on sunscreen? The first guy quickly checked his pockets as he realized that he still had some spray on sunscreen with him as he held out the can to Mina. Sure, I got some right here. If you want, I can spray down your back if you want. Mina saw this as an opportunity as she started to show the guy her back as she was wiggling her hips a little bit in front of him. Sure thing, big guy, just be careful where you spray. I'm truly delicate. First guy made sure to spray down Mina's back carefully as he rubbed some of it in, making sure that it didn't fade right off. Do you want me to spray down the front? Mina smiled as she turned around and grabbed the can out of the guy's hand, using her other hand to put one of her fingers on the guy's lip. Don't get ahead of yourself, big guy. I can handle spraying down the front, but do you mind if I hold on to this for a while just in case me and my friend might need it? First guy had a blush on his face as he was smiling, just motioning with his hands for Mina to keep it. You can keep the sunscreen. We actually have more of it in the car. I hope that my friend will be back with you girls' ice cream as soon as possible. As if on cue, guy number 2 returns with the ice cream cones as he hands one to Izuku and the other one to Mina. Both of the girls smile at the guy, who seemed to have a massive blush on his face, only for him to have his world rocked upside down when he notices how seductively the girls are licking their ice cream cones with their tongues, making him faint. Guy number 1 quickly runs over to his friend, who noticed that he had fainted and that he might actually need some medical help, as he actually was feeling on his chest, realizing that he might pass out himself if he sees these girls do anything more seductive. Sorry to say this, ladies, but it looks like I gotta get my friend home. He might have passed out from all of this heat. Ina wanted to make sure that they didn't have to deal with these two guys for much longer, so she wanted to put the final nail in the coffin. Aw, boo, we were just trying to have some fun with you guys. Ina then leaned forward as she started to show off some of her cleavage as she was constantly licking one side of the ice cream cone, making sure that her tongue stayed on it just a little bit longer to emphasize how long she can lick the cream. We don't want you boys to get damaged from the sun rays, so we understand. The first guy proceeded to pass out because his heart couldn't handle what he was seeing, only for the second guy to finally come back, but instead of having one sun hat with him, he seemed to have bought 2 of them along with a bag of candy. Sorry it took so long, there was a line back at the session stand. He then proceeds to look back at the ground, seeing that both of his friends were passed out. Oh my god, what happened to the both of them? Izuku spoke up as she was a little bit stuttering because she was nervous, thinking thinking what this guy might have thought that the both of them did to his friends. It looks like the both of them passed out from the heat, and I really have to thank you for getting a hat from my friend. The second guy was smiling with a big grin on his face as he was handing both over the hat and the bag of candy, wanting to make a good first impression with these girls. They really didn't have many chips or soda, so I grabbed some candy thinking that it would be good, so I hope that the hats work out for both of you girls. Deku smiled, realizing that she needed to make this final guy faint, not wanting to make Mina do all the work when an idea finally pops into her mind. Well, you're just the sweetest thing, and for all of your hard work and going the extra mile, I think that you deserve a reward. Second guy's face started to turn even more red as he was smiling, using one of his hands to wave off the suggestion as he was using the other hand to scratch the back of his head. Well, there's no reason for you to force yourself. I'm very honored to be able to assist such lovely ladies as yourself. Zuko went in for the kill as she got in closer to the guy, landing a kiss right on his cheek and then taking the gifts and taking a step back. That's for all of your hard work. Second guy finally fell over with a nosebleed, fainting alongside his friends, only able to get out one final phrase: "Don't mention a cutie." Both of the girls just shrugged their shoulders as they were just walking through the rest of the beach, heading over to the pier as they ate their ice cream cones. It took them about 10 minutes to get to the pier and meet up with Midnight, who was shocked to see what the girls were able to accomplish in such a short time. Well, I have to say I'm very proud of you girls. Both of you got some hats, some sunscreen, ice cream cones, and a bag of candy. I was expecting to see more flirting between a lot of guys while I was watching over the both of you, but focusing on the first three that came up to you isn't bad either. Zuko finishes her ice cream cone. She was actually taking a few deep breaths when she finally broke her composure that she was trying to keep for so long. I was so scared. I was worried that we were going to have to be forced to go on dates with those guys. Mina patted Zuko on the head, realizing how silky smooth her hair is, which made her a little bit jealous, but decided to focus on comforting her friend. Well, come on, it wouldn't have been that bad if we ended up going on a date with some of those guys. Soon as Mina mentioned something about dating, Eraserhead showed up and he was looking at all three girls wondering what the heck happened as Shinso finally caught up with him as he was breathing heavily, having both hands on his knees ready to pass out, only for him to look up and see Mina and Izuku in their bikinis. With the boy already tired, he couldn't handle anymore as his nose started to bleed out as he fell backwards onto the sand, completely out cold. Midnight chuckled a little bit as she covered both of the girls with a towel, even though neither one of them went near the water. I think that's enough for today. I have enough data to work off of, so let's head home. But that's where I'm going to end this video off, but don't click off the video yet because I have a few statements that I want to say. First off, I hope that all of you enjoyed this hour-long special for how hard it took me to get this far, and I hope that Ed appreciates that I stayed within his parameters. Second, I need all of you to know that the next video that I do is going to be another hour-long special. It's going to be part 19 of All for One. And finally, I need you all to understand that I'm finally off my chain to go back to writing my bloody and gruesome story, so be ready because the USJ for part 19 is going to be bloody. Hashtag bloody hands in the chat for me, please. But all that said, I'm out this time, guys. Peace.